For May 28th, 2024. And the first item to discuss is one where we had some citizen comment just before we broke, and that's the possibility of accepting Royal Oak Townhome Development roads. So coming forth is the already mentioned Mike Apke and the Cal Ripken of the Village of Pinehurst. So please go ahead and begin, gentlemen.
All right, thank you. I'll start. First off, thanks to Joe and the group back there, and Joe for his comments. I told him in the break he did about half my presentation for me by answering questions and providing information. So thank you to them for being here. I will just kind of go over the history of this a little bit. So the Royal Oak Townhomes Association, of course, they have approached staff about the possibility of the village taking over ownership and maintenance of their road system. Just a little bit of background about the subdivision. If you haven't been there, it is located off of Murdochsville Road. As Joe mentioned, it is within our village limits. We do provide solid waste collection services to the subdivision. It is currently 100% built out with 40 townhomes. And roadways, there's about 1,630 feet of asphalt roads within the subdivision, about 0.3 of a mile, including 3 cul-de-sacs, and there's actually a small roundabout within the subdivision. It's a very nice subdivision. The roads are currently in good condition. They're phase one, the development was constructed in phases. So phase one was done around 2018 with the roads in 2019. And phase two, the roads were constructed in 2021. So the roads are anywhere from 3 to 5 years old. They're in good condition. And the roads themselves were constructed to our engineering standards. The widths, the profile, everything was done in accordance with the village's engineering standards with the construction of the roads themselves. The original developer for that property, as he went through the process, had to be in front of council and went through staff and the TRC review process from the beginning, had indicated that the roads within the subdivision would be privately owned and maintained by the HOA. And so
Let me interrupt for a minute.
I'm sorry.
Why would that be a position of a developer? How often do we hear that from a developer? That we're going to make these roads private? Don't worry about it.
How often? It happens occasionally. Why? I can't answer that. I think different developers have different reasons for that. I do not know in this case specifically why the developer wanted that done, but that was the plan from the beginning, I guess, at least as understood by village staff and ultimately was presented to village council.
Thank you.
So as a result, there are several of our standards that were not met as far as what is required for subdivisions with public roads. And can you pull up the memo that's attached to that, Shannon? Keep going down. I did provide a summary, a fairly detailed analysis of everything. There's some pictures. That there is the entrance off of Murdochsville Road. They have a nice concrete apron that goes in there. Keep going, Shannon. There's the small roundabout, which I think that's the Royal Oak in the middle of the roundabout for the Royal Oak subdivision. There are street lights in there. If you look on the left side there, that's a small grinder sewer pump station. I can talk about that in a minute. Keep going, Shannon. Storm drainage, they have concrete curb and gutter with these curb inlet stormwater boxes. That one's a little odd in the middle of a driveway. Joe did mention there's a pipe that goes through a storm drain. I took a picture of that. I'm not sure exactly what that is. But when we get into different standards that weren't met, like these are not our standard street signs. And we typically don't put stop signs on street posts, things like that. Those are easy enough. We could change those out. So there are some things that are not up to our current standards that are fairly straightforward to fix. There's two things that concern me about this, and one are the right-of-way widths. So our engineering standards manual that has been adopted by council in the past requires a 50-foot right-of-way for roads that we maintain. Typically, you've got your road, and that road is centered within the right-of-way. And I put in the memo here a few just areas where you can see, those are the lot lines for the townhomes there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. In this area, there's approximately 42 feet between those lot lines. This area is about 39 feet. This area, which is at the end of Lark Drive, I think is the closest together, is only about 32 feet there. So we would not meet the 50-foot right-of-way width requirement. There's one more that's 36 feet. So that's one standard that I don't know that there's any way around
Mike,
that.
may I add
Go ahead.
something at this point? Pat, you asked the question, why would a developer want to keep the roads private? It's
So
to
they could fit
squeeze
in
more
more houses.
properties onto the site,
Okay.
and that's
Density.
why they would want to keep them private.
And what effect does it have for us at 32 feet versus 50?
What is the practical, what can't we do? at
What's the
32?
so what?
Area for maintaining the road. Could we maintain them at 32 feet? That's a 24-foot wide road through there. So if you think about 24 feet and 32, we would have 4 feet of extra space on the edge of the road to
Would it
to
have an
maintain.
impact on fire trucks getting down there?
The road widths themselves are okay. They meet our standards. The cul-de-sac diameters meet our standards. I think it just impacts the area that we have to maintain it. If we were to go in and resurface it, it just limits the amount of space that we would have to stay on our property, so to speak.
If we ever had to maintain something, we could only go 4 feet off the road. If we had to dig beyond that, we're into somebody's property.
Yeah, there are no sidewalks in there.
Well,
Correct.
fair point.
When you're saying that, those are structures, right?
Those are lot lines.
Lot lines.
Those are
Lot
actually
lines.
lot lines that are owned by private property owners.
Okay, so it is what you said, John. If you go beyond that 4 feet, you're in somebody's property,
Correct.
not in their house.
Not in their house.
Okay.
There is, if you look at the top there, if you see lot number 22 there, that cul-de-sac goes over to the right, and that is actually the wall of that property there on the side. So that cul-de-sac gets within, I didn't measure it, but it looks like it's 8, 9 feet, something from the edge of the cul-de-sac there, whereas I think we typically require 15 to 20 feet beyond there to have some working area. So it's squeezed in there and does not meet what the current standard is in the engineering standards manual for public roadways.
But was this platting approved by planning and zoning?
Oh, I remember this vividly. But I attended both the planning and zoning and the council meeting when this was discussed, the site plan. And the developer clearly indicated that in order to incorporate this many townhomes, he would have to build it to this standard or to this size, roadways and so forth. So it was clearly recognized that it wouldn't be, the setbacks and the road widths and right-of-ways would not be according to a normally dedicated street. But the only way that he was going to be able to incorporate this many units was to build to the standard.
So that's item one that would not meet our current standards. The second one, our engineering standards manual states that no privately owned utilities or structures, including sewer force mains, pumps, and a list of other items, shall be allowed within any village right-of-way or easement. The way that they their design engineer elected to provide sewer service to this subdivision is with a series of small grinder pump stations. I showed you a picture of one of those before. Those stations are located on the private property, but you can see highlighted in the yellow there, there is, that yellow is the sewer force main piping, and it would go under the street, under backspin lane. It does go under the center of the cul-de-sac as well. So if we were to assume ownership and have some right-of-way width through there, those, the pump stations and force mains are privately owned and maintained by the HOA. The county would not accept those as public infrastructure. So we would have a situation where we had private infrastructure within our right-of-way, which is also a deviation from our standard. To me, those, unless the lines were relocated outside of whatever right-of-way we accepted through there. To me, those are the two big issues that I think are very difficult to resolve if we were going to accept this and maintain our standards.
What's the property that's behind that? I understand where Murdochsville Road is, but what do they back into? Is it just private property, or is it a,
Taylortown, the Taylortown ETJ, or maybe it's the municipal limits, I'm not sure.
must be the municipal?
Alex may know.
Part of Olmsted Village
Ah, okay,
Proper.
okay.
property, but not part, I guess, where it's developed out, but some of his vacant portion.
All wetlands.
So, Mike, I have a question. You said that these are difficult issues, obviously. And the question was asked, well, is this impossible to fix, or is it difficult to fix?
The relocation of these pipes, if we required that, would not be impossible to fix. They would just cost some money to fix. The 50-foot right-of-way, I don't know how you get a 50-foot right-of-way when you have all these parcel lines there, unless, I mean, I guess it's possible that
They could donate it.
yeah, each individual property owner could donate that, but whether that's feasible or not from that many people in there, I don't know. I suspect it's probably not, but I don't know.
I asked the question before, what's the so what of having 32 feet versus 50 feet? And you said it's just a little harder maintaining it and getting in there. So we're talking, if we're going there to pave it or do something that's a little bit more difficult, but it's not like it's that impossible.
I don't think it's impossible, no.
Okay, and is it hard?
It can be a little more difficult. Yeah, it's just limiting yourself to what you have if you're staying within your property there, parking things on the shoulder of the road. If, there's equipment we'd have to have on the shoulder of the road. We've got 4 feet there in that one area to do that.
So then the last question of all these, now, is it going to be more expensive for us to do that? To maintain this?
Potentially, yes.
Potentially, okay.
Let me ask two threshold questions. One came from Joe earlier. How long would it take to bring this community up to code? And what would be the costs incurred to bring it up to code?
Can you move townhomes?
The code that cannot be met, obviously, is the width of the right-of-way. And normally,
Unless they donated the land.
right, and
Yes,
the,
okay.
a normal development, you'd want the width of the right-of-way for utilities to be within the right-of-way so that any utility company has
Access.
access to make the repairs as required or needed. Sidewalks, those kinds of things. If you ever elected to go back in with sidewalks, you'd need right-of-way for that.
So every single one of the, or a number of townhomes would then be in violation of our setback standards. Is that correct? If we were to,
Probably be an
yeah, who
Alex's
knows?
question, but it could be if they did, depending on how much property they would have to give up, private property give up to make the right-of-way width, would that probably put them in some type of setback violation? Alex, as far as you know?
And if this is at all close to scale, I would not think that the easement or the setback from the road to what I'm seeing is the left side of lot 22, if that's a wall, that doesn't look anywhere close to 8 feet. If the other ones are 4, that looks like it could be 2 feet. I mean, there'd be no way to do any sort of maintenance there without digging into the wall. It's one thing to tear up somebody's front yard. That's not that difficult to repair. Start tearing up walls and what have you, that's,
Someone mentioned a wall on the
But you
left
said
side.
lot 22, the left side is not just the property line, there's a wall there.
I think that structure is right along the property
That's
line
the
there on the left
townhome
side
wall,
there,
yeah.
the townhome line, yeah.
Well, personally, I've been president of multiple homeowners associations. And in fact, I've been president of a homeowners association in the village of Pinehurst that in fact came forward at one point in time asking for very similar, to have the streets dedicated, and you guys remember that. And I empathize with this, and I want it to happen. But the reality is, the development was brought forward, and the plan was submitted to incorporate this many units in this property size with this type of street. And in fact, it's very difficult to go back and you can't undo that, so to speak. The answer, of course, is that every single homeowners association, and I'm sure many of us know the same thing, you've got to initially start with realistic assessments that build a capital fund that plan for maintenance of the infrastructure you have, and not rely upon the initial developer who has sort of a attractive assessment in the beginning, but realistically, it should be a little bit more than that to build a capital fund to maintain this property. So every homeowners association has to plan for that. And I've yet to be within a community or on a homeowners association that did the right thing in the beginning, and we always had to do catch up. So luckily, this organization is rather new, and in fact, can maybe possibly build a capital fund that will in fact allow them to do the proper maintenance when in fact the time comes that it's needed.
Just to be clear, unlike one of the previous situations we discussed where the issue was the current status of the road, we have no issue with the status of the roads themselves.
Correct.
Presumably, this piping could be resolved at some cost and could be redone to either county or our standards. And it looks like the setback is the right-of-way is the much more complicated issue. Is that? If we're looking to solve problems and compromise, that would be a way to go, except I think that's a hard one.
Yeah, there's another item that really is not a physical restraint kind of situation, and that is, this was brought forth under the current PDO, under the current engineering standards manual. We allow for deviations if they're going to be private, and deviations were allowed because these were going to be private. What I would have a concern about is the message that we send to the developers out there in the world that so what you do is you cram as much on there as you can, and then HOA, you go and see if the village will take them after the fact. So you've got two sets of rules, right? You've got one where we allow the deviation if it's going to be private, and so we allow the deviations, and now it wants to become public. And so I think there's an incentive if we were to accept this kind of a road, these roads, and no offense to these folks at all. I'm in a HOA and I've got same problems too. But what I'm fearful of is the message we send the development community that says, you, the developer, put as many units as you can on here, say they're going to be private, and then nod and a wink to the HOA and say, maybe the village will take them later. I think that is the precedent that we have to be concerned about setting in this situation.
I think it's a very good point. Are the developers totally out of the picture now?
Pardon?
Are the developers totally out of the picture now? Okay, all right.
The land has
this
all
is
been
completely
dedicated to
built
the
out.
HOA.
And I think Joe asked the question, how do you avoid this kind of situation happening before? And Mike is, don't allow deviations anymore, and this project may not have gone forward if that was the case. So where's the, I don't know where the sweet spot is. Do you allow the deviations if it's going to be private? Or do you say there's no deviations, you have to meet the standards, and then you're going to get, you probably have developers lining up in here too, to also have a bend your ear a little bit as well, so.
Agree 100% with that.
I don't know what's the right solution at the end, but I think the precedent that we set here is a bit precarious for the village going forward.
Another question and maybe option to consider. Assuming the sewer system could be relocated, instead of donating the property to create the right-of-way, could we instead accept an easement?
From each owner?
Yeah.
Dual use type thing.
Sorry?
Dual use easement, so they can, so we have the right to go on the property,
But we
And
we
they
have the
can't
right to
build
use
on
the
that.
property to maintain the right-of-way,
but they have the property itself.
but the property is still theirs, and therefore they meet the setback.
A maintenance easement, for lack of a better phrase.
Which utilities use all the time. I think that the point you brought up there, Jeff, is very good point on there. And should there also, if we're looking at this long-term, should we say, okay, it's going to be a private property, we won't take this for the next 30 years or something, you know, and put a time limit on there. Or they entirely meet the code they have to meet every place else. I understand that, and I understand the benefits, what it is. On this specific issue, though, that doesn't really change what we have right now. What's going on right now, to bring this into code, we're talking about moving sewer lines, and we're talking about either getting property or having an easement, from what I'm hearing. I concur with Jack exactly in what he was saying before. I don't think it is the right thing for the village to accept this as now our responsibility to work with it, unless it meets code. We have a fiduciary responsibility for what's going on. And there was money that was made with all those different lots that were put in there, okay? And I don't know how clear it was made to the owners that they're going to be taking over all these things as the HOA or not. And my suspicion is that that was not highlighted. What was highlighted is what a great structure we have and how pretty it is. But it doesn't change the fact that now, if we take this, we're asking the residents of Pinehurst overall to accept the liability and bring this back up to code. Now, if we can bring this up to code, if we can come up with solutions in there, as I've said before, I do feel it is the responsibility of local government to maintain roads. And I've got no problem in taking that as part of our overall acumen, but I don't want to pay from our fund to bring this up to code to then take it from there.
Yeah, no, I agree with 100%. And I think you bring up the best point is that how are we going to move forward in the future with new developments when they propose to be private roads? And in fact, I will congratulate, the HOA recognizing early on, which is very, very unusual, recognizing early on that they have to consider maintenance of their infrastructure, because rarely do HOAs come to that realization within the first 10, 15, 20 years. It's only when it gets hit that they suddenly get religion, or whatever the right word is. So I really congratulate them for at least bringing the proposal forward and recognizing that they have to start building a capital fund to maintain the structures.
Jeff, let me understand if it were possible via an expanded maintenance easement to meet the 50-foot right-of-way standard, I'd be concerned in some of these cases, it's not the scale, that you'd actually be going into the person's building, not just onto their property. And I'm not sure what that easement means under those circumstances. But if it could be met, you would then say that it would be something that we could consider, subject to them also rectifying the sewer lines and so forth.
Correct. And any other issues that are there. Bottom line, and this is philosophical, I don't think it is the responsibility of the Pinehurst taxpayer to bring up an individual subdivision to code so we take over the roads.
Agreed.
If they are there and they've met the code, I don't personally have a problem from there of now assuming the roads, because that's a general function of what we do. This was not done. So how can we work with the HOA and these residents to say, okay, let's come up with some way to make it forward, move forward with this and make it so it's come up to the code where we can take care of it. What I'm seeing right now is what's being presented to us is that's the sewer lines and also the easements to work within this. The HOA, would assume, is very motivated to work with us because they're already seeing after just 2 years, it's a huge financial liability that they're going to have to take on. So I'm assuming they're willing to work with our folks to come up with a solution.
Yeah, let me ask you a question. We recently, or the Planning and Zoning Board recently, reviewed a proposal for a development in Pinehurst South, sort of townhomes and so forth. Did that proposal meet our standards of the 50-foot right-of-way and so forth? Do you recall, Alex, you might be the person with the best memory on this, but I'm just trying to understand if this was 5 years ago, and I'm wondering what was the most recent thing that we, the village, confronted? Okay. Did not realize that.
And Jack, in the planning and zoning debate, was that,
Oh, it was discussed thoroughly.
that was an issue in the ultimate decision?
Well, what it was an issue, not, it was clearly articulated that these would not be public streets. And it was pointed out that these streets, the way the site plan was presented, would most likely not meet code. And in fact, that was not an issue as long as it met the engineering standards.
Okay.
Sound like this is another topic for a work session after we get some input from planning and zoning, because this is the second time in the past 2.5 months that we're dealing with road type of stuff that's on there. You've also got another division that's coming up right now with different standards on private roads versus public. And I'm not prepared to come down one way or another on different things. I think we need to discuss this to avoid this kind of situation in the future.
Would our next step be for you all to go back and having the homeowners have heard this discussion and to see if there's a practical way that they can meet what they've heard of our concerns? I think the suggestion by Jeff Sanborn on the idea of getting their sort of voluntary cooperation on the maintenance right away there sounded to me to be the most practical, but you've got 40 people to deal with, so to speak.
Like the utility part, our requirements are that they can't be under a road or anywhere in the right-of-way.
That's within the right-of-way, within any village right-of-way. It actually says within any village right-of-way or easement is what the standards manual says.
Perfect.
And that's because they would, if we let it be there, they in effect have a maintenance easement that they'll claim over time on our property.
I would assume so, yes. Yeah.
I'm very concerned about the precedent of within 3 or 4 years approving something and then backtracking on our PDO essentially.
I am happy to be proved wrong. I'm skeptical that even that easement idea, that may work on what I will call the front yard of the building. I'm not sure it's going to work on the side yards or the back corner down there,
We already have 50 feet there.
possibly. But
I don't know, I mean,
Right.
yeah.
if it could be satisfied, great, but I don't think it can be satisfied by impinging on a physical structure as opposed to.
All right. Other comments? Anything else you want to suggest to us?
I'm not sure we know what the direction we're supposed to be going.
Well, that's
This
where
is-
I'm really looking at you guys to see what,
Is it to go back and investigate and say, here's what all it would actually take, and you can or cannot meet based on where easements would, maintenance easements or
it looks,
whatever would have to
look,
be?
what I've heard tonight, this is a very steep hill to climb.
And a
But,
very steep, a slippery slope we would go down.
yes, but that doesn't, I don't think it precludes us from at least
Maybe it's a slippery
exploring.
hill to climb.
I do think,
Up, behind you. Yeah, it's good, go ahead.
The part that I'm hearing on, and it's kind of what I've said before, is that if it meets the code that we have, I don't have a problem in accepting it, but it's going to have to meet the code,
Right.
okay? And so I don't think that's going to put us in a precarious position for a slippery slope in that sense because it's meeting the code. I do think if we are accepting this where it's not meeting the code, then we have gone into the problem which Jack is talking about, a slippery slope, and I do not want to go that direction.
So maybe the direction for Jeff and Mike is to work with.
Work with the HOA and see what we can do to bring it up to code, and if it can happen. And if it comes up to code, I don't see a problem personally, from my perspective as a council member, in taking that. I do see a problem if we can't bring it up to code,
Right.
okay? And so how do we do that? I don't know. That's in y'all's court.
You have 4 days to
Done before the open.
Their mission, if you
Down to
should-
three,
should choose
Jack.
to accept.
Thank you for, 3 in another hour or so.
Carlton and I can work on that with them.
Okay, yeah. Jeff will sign off on it before he leaves. Okay. Well, this was a informative discussion, and it also, I think, provides us a little guidance going forward to the developments we have yet to see, because this is a very interesting arrangement that was,
I was going to just mention that same, either we do not allow the deviations and we have a hard and fast line that you got to meet the public right-of-way standard, period, and just tell all developers that's what it is, or you'll agree to allow deviations with it remaining private. At some point, that maybe that's a bigger policy question that has to be answered.
right, yeah, it is. But I do think the threshold question is, what does it take to bring it up to code? And then
Is it possible?
is it possible?
That's the biggest,
Yes,
yeah,
is it possible?
And I do think, maybe not July, maybe not August, maybe not September, but at some point in time, we need to have another conversation on this and say, what are we going to do? Okay, what's our policy going to be? And we allow it yes or no, or, a moratorium on it, or whatever the case is, but I get this impression, not that I can prove any of it, is that we have a developer that made quite a bit of money, and we got citizens right now that are trying to figure out a problem. And if we can help avoid that in the future for our future citizens, I think that would be a good service to them.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. To be continued. Okay. I will now entertain a motion.
Not yet, I think.
Well, we just, I don't know, I can't
we have
see. Oh, no,
update
I'm
on-
sorry, the update. I've been writing too many notes on this. There's Doug. Go ahead, update on the US Open.
Thank you, Shannon. So I have a few slides to share with you. So our inspections department's been very busy. So since the end of February, they have done 228 inspections on the temporary structures on the course. As you see, they have been going up very quickly the last couple of weeks. So in the next 2 weeks, we will probably have quite a few more of those inspections. I think the important thing to keep in mind here is that our inspections department is keeping up with their demand. We're not a bottleneck in any way to the USGA getting these things up and ready. Under public safety, we had a tabletop exercise with all the law enforcement agencies here on May 15th. That went well. What we are trying to get out there is the see something, say something kind of catchphrase that you hear at the airport, et cetera. This is a large gathering of people, so there's potential for things to happen, and there have been a lot of protests in the news and things like that. So we just want people to be keep that in mind, and if there is something out of the ordinary, to let law enforcement know about it. With our downtown events, I won't go through all of them. I think we already know them all, but they are on our website. So if anyone's looking for them, you can check out the website or the Village's Facebook page. We did hold a training for Village staff that will be participating in those today. That went well. A reminder for everyone, parking in the Village core in the business area is going to be limited to 3 hours. That includes the Village green lot, unless you have a permit that is available to employees of the downtown businesses. So we have given out, I think, over 250 of those permits, noting that there's only 100 spaces in the lot, so not everyone is going to be able to park there at least at the same time. So it allows you to park there, it doesn't guarantee you a spot.
And does that run right to 11 o'clock, or does it stop at 5, or?
It's 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And with the whole parking, just a reminder also that the village core is 3 hours, but we are limiting parking or prohibiting it in the right-of-way areas in the downtown core area. What we want is for people to use the satellite parking areas, take the shuttles into town, not create congestion in the village core. So again, everyone, if they follow the USGA parking plan, it helps everyone, including themselves. With the social district, we have handed out over 40,000 stickers, so there will be a lot of
Restaurants, I assume, right?
the restaurants, yeah. So, yeah, I think the Pinehurst Resort has 7, establishments within our social district, so they got several of those, more than several.
These are stickers to go on
For the cups.
containers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, because so any cup in this social district that, someone's carrying around has a lot of restrictions on it. Has to be less than 16 ounces, has to not be glass, has to have our logo on it. So the sticker is our logo and it says B21 or drink responsibly B21. So I think all of our downtown businesses, anyone in the social district is aware of those requirements. They have had the ability to get stickers, so I think we're in good shape there. Let's see. Yeah, I still have, a few thousand. So if you want a sticker. This past week, Jeff Batt and I attended a transportation meeting with the USGA, so we reviewed all of their transportation plans and all their vendors. It seems like that is in a good place, and we hope it goes very smoothly. Just a reminder that there are roads being restricted during the US Open. So as of Sunday evening, the most notable is Morganton Road from the Monticello intersection to the Highway 5 intersection. That will be closed to the public. Those who live off of that should have received parking passes from the USGA. They went out on May 20th. We were getting a lot of calls before May 20th, so I think those have now died down, but just if anyone's listening, you should have got those. If you haven't, you can contact the USGA. We can provide that phone number if you need it. And just a note that the merchandise tent is available before the US Open Championship. It's kind of a big deal. I think a lot of people might be interested in that, but not have tickets. So June 6th through 9th is available to the public to attend that. Barb actually mentioned this earlier, but the PBS documentary is coming out on June 11th. If you follow that link, you can get a 1-minute preview, and it is pretty cool. So we hope that I'm pretty sure that it's going to do a great job highlighting specifically the archives and the harness track, but the village as a whole as well. And that is all the formal, this comes up a lot.
Yeah, that's one of my questions. Go ahead.
And the mayor brought it up, I talked to the USGA. They are going to post a map on their website in their fan guide with all of the public gates. It's not up there yet. They said it would be done this week. But this is the public ones that we're aware of. So the main one, number 1, down there by the harness track. Number 10 is right across from the existing crosswalk on Highway 5. So there's the golf cart parking on Course 5, Hole 18 fairway. So park there, walk over. That's for anyone who lives on the west side of the village, west of Highway 5. That's probably your best way to get in. And then there's a gate number 8 that is at the clubhouse, kind of the main clubhouse area, Hall of Fame area to get into the course. Number 5, that green star up there, that is for anyone who lives in the number 7 neighborhood. They can go in and park there. And then the number 6 up in the top right corner, that is for any Ubers or a limo drop-off location. Also, there will be parking there for any golf carts that could come from the north part of the village, maybe number 6 or Village Acres. There is a road there that we will allow traffic. Right now, it's one way, but we will allow golf carts to go the wrong way on the one way so they can reach that parking area and do so.
Which
legally.
parking area is that one?
Number 6, where the old Golf Hall of Fame was.
Ah,
here.
okay, I got you up in the circle. The question, when they finalize it, because it's golf cart parking, I think it's important for us to have it on our website, because our residents are the ones with the golf carts.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
That's
Yep,
why
yeah.
I get questions.
We'll post it on our website, and we can do some social media outreach on this as well.
Okay.
And yes, here's our website. So all the details are on there. And any updates we've had, there haven't been too many, but they have been made up there as well. And
I find that the residents who ask me, after they go to the website, they're very satisfied. Okay, I always have, the golf cart question is the big remaining one, but
yeah. So we'll update that as soon as we can get that information. Again, here's the layout for the park. I don't think we need to go into those details, but any other questions?
I had a couple. One is restaurants particular, because they had some of the earliest concerns. Where does that stand now, in your opinion, regarding our restaurants?
Yeah, I think we're in a good place. Most of them serve alcohol, so I've been in contact with them with the social district. There was that, question of, are you going to be stealing my business with the
Right.
with the food trucks? But I think everyone is satisfied with it being only those Wednesday and Saturday when we have the build up and the extra events downtown. So I do believe they're happy.
Okay.
One thing, so we have been handing out the parking passes to the downtown businesses. We've reached most of them. I've been walking around, meeting with them, but there are probably still some that haven't. We're going to continue that, but I don't know how many may be watching, but if there are some, definitely reach out to us and we can make sure those get into their hands.
Another question was about the newsletter that we're going to hit our residents with. Is that coming soon, or?
Yep, it went to the printer over a week ago, so
Okay, so
for
it's
them to
imminent.
print it and mail it, should be any day now.
Last question had to do with, actually, this was a suggestion. Are there, in the amenity world, is there any power wash plans on sidewalks or anything like that going forward, or are we fine how it is now?
Well, we have done a lot of cleaning sidewalks.
It was a generic question I had from somebody.
I mean, there's still a few items that we are going to be happening in the next couple of weeks. But we're well down that road. If there is anything that's of concern, you can reach out to us and we can see
Okay.
what we can make happen.
And I thought in one of the earlier meetings, we mentioned that we would have obviously additional trash receptacles around.
Yeah.
I will note that on the Sand Hills Motoring Expo, we had a good amount out, and they filled up for that Sand Hills Motoring Expo in most cases, so
Yep, yeah.
better to have a few extras than a few little ones.
Yeah, we have some more permanent ones that are going to go out, but then we have the special event ones that, like you saw at the Sandals Motoring. They'll be out. We have staff assigned to remove trash all day, every day. So, and particularly in the evenings, there'll be people removing trash constantly.
Other questions?
A couple of comments, one from friends of mine who don't live in the core village. They were happy to hear that they conceivably could go to Cannon Park after 5 o'clock and park there and get shuttled in. That was perceived as a good thing to do. They said, well, can we drive into the core village? I said, sure, you may not find a parking space, but, good luck.
Yeah, Camden Park after 5 p.m. and potentially 55 Rattlesnake Trail all day would be available.
I received one comment from an individual and one from a business owner purporting to represent other business owners about some leafleting that's going on, advertising the fact that the merchandise tent will be open before the tournament. So even if you don't have a ticket to go to the tournament, you can walk over to the merchandise tent, and the specific request is whether that was in violation of our soliciting and what have you. I passed that along, no comment required.
Yeah, I haven't seen a leaflet, but if one wants to make its way to me, I'll look into it.
I have a picture of the leaflet I can
Yeah,
show
if
you
you want to send, that'd be
afterwards.
great.
It's a very nice leaflet. I think that's it.
All right. Others? No. Doug, thank you.
Yep.
Keep up the great work. I know there's a lot of balls you're bouncing in the air, and do let us know if there's something you want us to do as individuals.
Mr. Mayor, we have a closed session coming up where the public's going to have to leave, and I
Yes.
think that we've got some folks over here from Royal Oak. I would like to move to amend the May 28, 2024 work session agenda to allow public comments related to Royal Oak Townhouse Development as item number 4, if we can do that.
Item number 4 tonight?
Yes, so basically, if we allow them, if they have any comments they
Oh.
want, to allow that to occur before the closed session, because they're going to have to leave for the closed session, and I think that some folks would like to make some statements.
I have no objection. Is there a second? I think
I
there's a
would
motion.
second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
So be it. Thank you again, Doug.
Thank you.
All right. Our agenda was amended, and so now we will ask the
If there's any public comments.
public comments for people from the Royal Oaks Townhouse. Please come up and get to the microphone and tell us your name so we know who we're talking with.
I'm Tina Coxon Walshaw. I am the treasurer of Royal Oaks HOA. I recently moved here from the DC area and retired here, and I love it. But I'm a resident in this community, and unfortunately, no, I did not read that this was a private community. Was not told by Cavernous and Cates, did not have any idea, and most of the homeowners did not either, from our discussions. Unfortunately, here we are with this situation. I am kind of curious, are we still entitled to have, fire trucks there? Okay, we are. In the event that we cannot accomplish this, can you provide us with resources that can help us and steer us in the right direction about, resurfacing these roads, having them resealed? I mean, we're going to need all the direction possible that we can possibly get in order to make this function. We were already in debt, okay, as a new HOA. So we have already had to initially have an assessment to come up with this. So I'm just asking these kinds of questions to see what you guys can do to help us support this and see if we can't meet the standards. Will you guys please provide us with a direction that can help us, meet this in the future?
Well, we do have some standards, okay, and it's not unusual for residents to consult with staff as to how does one accomplish these standards, or how does one comply with an ordinance that we have. So you would have, I think, that avenue open to you. and
Those
anybody.
resources available to.
Well, I don't know, when you say resources,
Well,
we got to
I
be,
meant resources in order to say, maybe you can provide us with a great contractor, okay, that can repave the roads. I mean,
yeah, I think there are recommendations. There are contractors that are familiar to the village who we rely on from time to time, so it's not
so that
secret.
we can sort of plan for these upcoming things over the next 20 years.
Right.
But I think in the context of the discussions that we've suggested staff have, you could ask them, how often do we resurface our roads? And general questions like that, I think we'd be happy to help out.
Yeah, we're going to really need all the direction because none of us have ever served on a board in an HOA before. So we are just volunteering our time and.
I encourage you to spend a lot of time with Jack Farrow.
Great.
I've done
Thank
my
you all
time
so
on
much.
HOA.
Appreciate
Resident
it.
HOA
Thank you for the
expert.
He
opportunity.
heads our HOA subcommittee. Okay. Go ahead, Joe?
Thank you. First of all, thank you again for listening and taking this under consideration. And Dr. Morgan, thank you for asking those questions. Like Tina said, we have a real problem with the developer that did our property. We inherited a $24,000 debt that we took over, and that's the bad news. The good news is, with the leadership of our HOA, we were able to get all the homeowners together, explain to them what happened. It was expenses over 4 years of maintaining the property, and we got a vote of 33-1 to take the assessment, and everyone has paid it except one person so far, and it's just because they've been traveling a lot. So when we talk about trying to get the easements that Dr. Morgan mentioned, I think we can get the 40 homeowners to rally around that if it saves them this huge expense 20 years from now when we have to resurface the roads. So we appreciate your consideration. Thinking about it, I'll work closely with the guys, Mike, and see if we can't find a solution. And if we can't find a solution, then we're going to have to go another way. But we appreciate it, and thanks for your time.
Thank you for your time.
And I'll echo Mr. Farrell's comments before, very empathetic on what's going on. And for all of y'all, that's a Southern term, the plural of y'all is all y'all. But thank you for your leadership and guiding through this. We have a fantastic staff. They're very talented. They're very approachable. And work with them. And I think you'll get a lot of the support you're looking for, a lot of information that this council can't provide for you.
Right. Wow.
Oh, okay.
Been a good group.
Very good. Thank you, Joe. Thank you. Okay.
I move to, well, I'm going to have to close that. We're back into the regular session.
Yes, we are. Okay. I will now entertain a motion to move to a closed session.
I move to recess the work session and enter the closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A5 to establish or to instruct the public's body, staff, or negotiating agents concerning the position to be taken by or on behalf of the public body in negotiating the price and other material terms of a contract or proposed contract for the acquisition of real property by purchase, option, exchange, or lease.
Motion?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion adopted. Let's go to a closed session. Those people who should not be here, please depart.